as we have come together for 26 years, devoting ourselves to the apostles' teaching, devoting ourselves to a worship experience, planting a church that would revolve in many ways around fellowship. And that was something that I wasn't seeing in all of my travels, where families would come together and they would bond and they would eat meals together. Their children would grow up and play together and become best friends. We would become best friends, people we didn't even know. In our future, we would meet our best and closest friends, sharing experiences that would make us cry sometimes and make us celebrate other times. Celebrate in the birthing of new babies and sorrow together in the loss of many loved ones through the years. I want to take you just down a little pictorial road today to try to show you a little bit of how it all started, where we came from, so that you will understand what you're a part of, so that you will not just say, I go to Cornerstone Family Church, but you'll be able to say, I'm part of that place. If y'all just please stay focused on this voice right here. It's not as cute as other voices, but stay focused right here, please. I want you to understand what you are now a part of. Maestro, if you're ready with that first picture, we just have a few, but oh my goodness, there we go. We started over there in that other building and in the upper room. The upper room is now called the Teen Center Lobby. The upstairs lobby, our upper room. And we were all a little younger 26 years ago. And we came out of the gate with a bang and just doing things together, eating meals together. And that little upper lobby up there in the teen center became the first fellowship hall, because the part down below that started out a garage just was in no condition to be used yet for something like that. And so this was our first Valentine's Day, and we shared a meal together. As you can see, my wife and I were just a little bit younger then. Michael Morgan is in that scene, and this is not the only picture that he will happen to pop up into, and I'll explain to you why later on that is, but you will begin to see the beauty of the mullet. And it will let you know exactly how old we are. Now, him and Mark were telling me this morning that the mullet is about to make a comeback. And that saddens my heart. I've been grieving ever since they told me that. I told them, it's like, next thing you know, Duran's going to be making a comeback. If you go to the next slide, our first Halloween together. And we were always into, this was even before Pastor Tim came on the scene, we were into like drama and acting and putting things on. And this was a skit that we did that first Halloween called Dr. Rip and Tear. And Michael bravely volunteered to be my patient, even when I knocked him in the head with a hammer, which actually was a block of wood beside his head that they couldn't hear. But when I hit that block of wood with that hammer, the corporate gas that took place. And we started out from the very beginning saying, we're not just here to have church services. We're here to be the church, to do things together. We're going to take every single holiday and we're going to do those holidays together, our way. And God's going to use it all. Next picture. You see Jackie and Joyce back there and Kathy Bailey, all looking a little different. And then you see my little sister there, Roberta. And we've always been ahead of everybody else. She was our first gender reassignment scenario here. You would know her today as my little brother Robbie. But see, that's how far back our history goes. You all just always have known Robbie as he is now. But there's days I still miss Roberta, having that little sister around. The next picture, you wait. I'm getting ready to get you here in a little bit too. Everything that could happen happened, and the Lord taught us up front as a church family. when the storms come and the floodwaters rise and the blizzards come and the snow builds up on the roof and it looks like everything is falling apart, they're actually falling in place. And God taught us that early so we could teach the people. When it looks like it's falling apart, it's actually just falling in place. Take a deep breath, hold on, give God a chance. And so we went through the major flood here that was 1.5 feet in our sanctuary and 2 foot out in what was our family growth center then, which is down where the stage and everything is at in the teen center now. And we had that, and we had a blizzard that hit the roof. Our sanctuary was very small. It had just like 100 seats in it. But between the roof caving in and the floodwaters, between those two separate events, we were able to remodel, get some new carpet, and spruce things up and make it look so much better. But that's how it looked from the front. You see, even the far end still had a big garage door in it because at one time it was a body shop on that end, a house on the other, and when Sounds of Today Music bought it, they joined it together in the middle and made it a music store. And we always thought it was very prophetic because when we were looking for that empty building somewhere, the big sign was still over there out front, and it said Sounds of Today. And when we planted, we knew that our sound was going to be different than other people's sounds because it's gotten a little more contemporary now in the last 26 years with other people doing some contemporary stuff. But when we planted this place, trust me, we were the only rock and roll show in town. And we had the sounds of today. And it was different, and we were called many names because of that. The next picture, that's a picture of our original sanctuary after the flood and after the blizzard when we got rid of the 3 giant poles that went through the middle of the room and the giant display in the window. And that's what our first sanctuary looked like. And I apologize if these pictures aren't bigger than they are. That's my fault. I could have fixed that originally, and I wasn't thinking. Some of you remember those green chairs because they were out there for years and years. So we could seat about 100 people in there. And then, next slide, you'll see we continued on doing things in that little sanctuary. Easter plays were just off the hook. Pastor Tim, this wasn't Blood Boy. This was one before that. You'll see Michael Morgan in there again, and Pastor Tim when he was a younger buck. You see Kim Hendricks back there, and a doctor, Dr. Mike, that went here at the time before they moved away, and Larry Showalter with the Jesus beard going on. Larry's no longer with us. You may see him again in a few minutes in the pictures, just to make clear, so nobody... We don't need anybody needing a drawer change here. Larry was just a very, very special part of this place, like many others through the years that are no longer with us. And I don't remember what this play was, but we just really got into doing like Easter plays especially. We could do that then, and it's not so easy to do those kind of things now. When we were smaller, it was easier. The next scene, there's a picture of a Halloween later on out in the family growth center, and we just always had fun as a family. I can tell you exactly what we're doing right there. If you can't tell by Ron Dart's hands and Pastor Tim's hands, we are driving the bus. And we got into it, and we just loved getting dressed up and just celebrating all of those occasions together as a family. And a lot of the things we do now, it's not new things we do, it's things we've been doing through the years. We may tweak it a little bit, but it's things that birthed 26 years ago. Next picture, we outgrew the little sanctuary. It didn't take long to outgrow that, and I don't remember how old we were, but the Lord had blessed us. We bought the building from the bank. We rented for 6 months, and we stepped out on faith, and somehow we bought the property from the bank, and I still don't know how any of that worked. I don't know how we have done any of the things we have done here. Jackie and I look back trying to figure out. We just scratch our heads. We feel the faith to do something in the moment. We feel supercharged. We open our mouths. We let it fly. It lands. The seed goes in the soil. You all get super faithed up, and we all say, let's go for it. And then next thing you know, we have done it, and we look back and we go, what were we thinking? And we've stepped into things that just took humongous faith beyond what we could. It seemed like what we had the natural to back up, and that's why it's faith, I guess, and we just it just always worked. And we've always said, as long as we were building, God was supplying. And so we doubled the size of that little sanctuary. We went from a 30 by 60 to a 60 by 60, and we could get 200 chairs in there. And it looked so large to us then. It just seemed so big. And the stage went from 8 feet deep to 16 feet deep, and we just thought, oh my goodness, look at this big stage. Tim, I have no idea. We took basically the same praise team almost, and we put on that little stage over there, and I don't even know how we did it, because that's when you had like big drums all around you, and we all had big everything all around us, and we weren't as streamlined then as we are now. I don't know how we did it, but we did it. Next picture is a picture in that sanctuary. It's that middle part, of course, of the teen center now. A lot of you have been over there, and we just so enjoyed those times together. When we first went in the new sanctuary, I remember the first Sunday, it seemed like we were so spread out and so far apart, and it seemed so big, and it overwhelmed us. And now to go back in that situation, oh my goodness, it would be warm, to say the least. Next picture, I just want to show you just a few pictures of, and I wish I went through thousands of pictures. I'd love to show you all the pictures of all of our kids that have grown up through the years here. It's impossible to do. So I just have a few pictures of some that have been around for like the full ride pretty much for a long time, that have grown up together. That's little Emily there in the middle. That's Lacey Dart in the green, and Wiggles. Wiggles, did you make it here today? Is she back there? You are? Is Emily in here? Oh, shoot. Serving messes everything up, man. And they became best friends through the years. Sarah was born in this church. Again, apostrophe, continuation, not literally in this building. But when the Forees came to Cornerstone, Sarah didn't exist yet. And when the Hendricks came here, they brought Emily in one of those little car seats, carrying her in. That's how little she was. And Lacey, how old was Lacey when you guys came here, Ron and TD? 8 years old. And they just all grew up becoming big buddies. Next slide. And a lot of the little babies that aren't babies anymore, and they're all out doing their own thing, that's the first Smith unit. That's Cameron. And when the Smiths came here, they were almost babies themselves. We still don't even know how that worked, bringing Tim and Pam here, because they hadn't been out of Bible college all that long. And we really couldn't offer them hardly anything to come on board here. It's like we just wrestled with it. Here's what we can offer you. I don't know how you're going to eat on this, but this is what we can do, and we just feel like the Lord has brought you here to be part of what we're doing. And they stepped out on faith, and they took a salary cut from where they were at, and they came on board, and I just don't know what they were thinking. Because I would say I never would take that offer, but as my wife said, I shut down a landscaping business so we could plant this thing, and went from a decent income to zero salary on my end, because I knew this was going to be all-consuming. Next picture, my baby came into this world in the existence of this place. That's up in the old nursery, or not the nursery, but the next step up, the little toddler room in the old church, and you wouldn't even recognize that lobby now. We ended up dividing it up, making it extra rooms, because we needed the classroom space. And I will never be able to separate the birthing of my first child, Cornerstone, from the birthing of my second child, which we didn't get to 11 months after her birthing. But she was our baby, and just bringing her in and just handing her off immediately to those nursery workers, and them loving on her and taking her in, and just everything that the church did to help us go to China and get her, because it was an overwhelming thing. And it was one of the many things in this family that we see in that picture in the first church there in Acts, where the people brought their possessions and they put them together to accomplish the work of God. And it blew us away, the way that you all as a family came together and said, you're not going to get that baby alone. This is what we're doing together as a church family. And you all helped make something happened that was just completely overwhelming in our mind up front. Next picture, that's a picture of one of our first kids ministry areas out there where the teen center is now. And we always, from the very beginning, we said, we're going to make this the happiest place in the world. What was the name of that kids show that was real popular? Zoom. Thank you, Zoom. And I was flipping around and I saw Zoom on TV and I saw what they were doing. I said, we're going to do a Zoom theme for our kids. We always tried to make it colorful. We always tried to make it like the happiest place that our kids can imagine where they would want to come back. That's like 23 years ago. Next picture. I'm sorry, y'all are going to have to, you're going to have to see some of these kids that were birthed here together and grew up together. The little Three Musketeers, a.k.a. the Three Stooges more often. Just growing literally in baby carriages side by side. Two of them born here, one of them here shortly after birth, growing up as babies together. I'm showing you this because this is a picture of a larger picture that we have seen play out many, many, many times at Cornerstone. Babies that are born here and they grow up together through the classrooms and they become best buddies, best pals. And what a difference that makes then when they go off to their schools and they have those friendships in their secular schools. What a difference it has made in their lives. I know, just go ahead and get mad at me. I'm going to show you another picture of the Three Stooges. Go ahead. Is it the next one? Yeah, because that was their world. Because two of them are pastors' kids, and one of them was a deacon's kid with a family that was and still is involved in everything going on. Those kids literally grew up in the church buildings. Hannah had a place in my office. The bus would drop her off out here. I'd have to be out there, and except for one afternoon, I was out there to pick her up. And then one time, the bus just went by, and Hannah was just little face glued against the glass and waving at Daddy as the bus just kept going. And it's like, all right, baby, see you tomorrow. But I would have to get her off the bus. She would come up to my office over there, which is the studio now over there in the teen center. And she had a little bed that she would take her little nap on. And these kids have grown up in church. That's all they've known. And BJ and Sarah both with us a lot because of horse shows. And we were always begging, let us keep the kids some while you're gone. It will be doing us the favor. And so these kids just grew up in church. But how prophetic is that picture to our kids and to that picture of that first century church where they met together daily and they ate in each other's homes and they shared their worlds together. They shared their lives together. Their history was a history they built together. Next picture, we continued even after we moved out of there over here for a while to use that facility before it became the teen center. Long before we were packing this place out with kids on VBS, we were packing that place out with kids with VBS. Our VBSs have always been legend, wait for it, dairy here in Princeton. I see I'm the only person here that watches How I Met Your Mother. We have no Barney fans here but me, evidently. I hate that y'all don't even know what I'm talking about. Y'all are so living in the past. Maybe that shows in the past. I don't know. Next picture. We had worship in that little sanctuary that was intimate. That's Aaron and Bridget standing there in front. It was close quarters, and because we were close together, it factored into the intimacy of our worship experience. And some of these guys that have been in the praise band for many years, Tim and Mark and Michael, and they will tell you, and Terry, they will tell you that, man, there were times we just almost had to sit down on the floor. The presence of God was just so thick. There were times we did end up on the floor. Sometimes it was at practice. Sometimes it was at Sunday mornings. Sometimes it was at our God Chaser service that we had every once in a while at night. And it was powerful. It was powerful. It became so supernatural. There were times there would be the aroma, the fragrances that would even manifest in the air. That it's like, I don't know what this fragrance is. Is it myrrh? Is it frankincense? It was something that just, it was supernatural times as God was getting us ready for next phases and stages of faith to go beyond where we were at. Next picture, we outgrew the little 200 sanctuary, and we didn't know what to do, and I knew everybody was going to 2 services, but I didn't know how we were going to do it because I was still trying to transition from doing road ministry stuff, conference and stuff that were very long services, trying to transition to Sunday morning. And so we had really long Sunday morning services. They were just blowouts, man. It was like every Sunday morning was like being at a conference somewhere. And I didn't know how to adjust, but I'd met a pastor down in Virginia and went and spent some time with him, and he convinced me, you're not an exception. If you will make the adjustments, this will work. And he talked me into it. I came back, I met with leadership. I said, look, we're going to 2 Sunday morning services, a 9 o'clock and an 11 o'clock. And I don't know how it's going to work because the fly in the ointment potentially is children's ministry. The praise team, they weren't upset about getting to play twice a morning. They loved it. I didn't know how it was going to work with children's ministry, but the department head said, Pastor Scott, don't worry about it. We'll figure this thing out. They can serve twice every Sunday, just like the praise team is serving twice. And our first Sunday there, we put the big banner up across what was the front porch on the house part over there. And I think we put some ads in the Trading Journal, if anyone remembers when that was the most popular site to market things with. And our very first Sunday that we had 2 Sunday morning services, we had 50 new people that came. And just God proven, if you'll step out on faith and you'll tweak and you'll keep refashioning who you are, this is going to work. Next picture, it didn't take long before we saw, even with 2 services, we're going to have to build. And we didn't know how to build. And this property existed. There was a big warehouse here, Baker Sanitary Supply, that most of you probably remember, a gigantic old warehouse. And we didn't know what to do. We looked at property all over the place. Everything we looked at that was big enough was $500,000. One of the pieces of property we looked at is where Walmart is right now. And we could have got that piece of property for the same amount. That's probably the cheapest piece of property Walmart has ever bought in the history of that whole gigantic business. To get a piece of property as big as they did for $500,000 was a steal. The thing is, if you remembered anything about that property, it was going to take millions of dollars of excavation to make it usable. And that was something we couldn't do. This piece of property was not for sale, but I knew the owners. I walked next door, and I just said, look, we need to build. I knew they were getting close to retirement. I said, is there any chance you'd be interested in selling? They said, we don't think so. But a couple of days later, they called me and said, come back over here. They said, we've talked about it, and we think God has opened the door, an opportunity for us to go ahead and get into retirement here and move this property while we can. And so it was the same price as all pieces of property, $500,000. That's still a lot of money. Make no mistake about it. But then that might as well have been $5 million. And so they said the only condition is we don't want you to finance this at the bank. We want to owner finance it so that we can make the interest, and we will charge you less interest than the bank. Talk us into that, why don't you? So they owner financed it. We didn't even have to go to the bank, which left us free to go to the bank later on to get a loan for construction. And we began to build where you're currently at. I got a few pictures here of construction just because I've been in a reminiscing mode. Next picture, that's Mr. Larry, and he's in there, and he's standing right over there somewhere. This was in the sanctuary in the background somewhere. Is that the stage back there being built? It looks like. And Mr. Larry was just an important part of this place for so long. The house and the property we bought over here last year before last, everything's a blur to me. Construction's a little bit at a standstill right now, waiting on the workers to get back. But that's being renovated over there now. That'll always be the Showalter house. Mr. Larry in there. Next picture, that's standing out there somewhere looking through all of here. That's what it used to look like in here. We had a picnic in here when it looked like that. How many remembers that picnic? A few of you remember that picnic we had in here on the gravel? When it looked like that in here, we said, let's go ahead and start using the building now. Next picture. That's the ribbon cutting before we came into the new building, and what some of us look like. Pastor Tim and I are looking a little bit younger. We do now. My wife and Miss Pam, my mom in the background back there, little Hannah. That was the ribbon cutting for our first Sunday in this new facility. That's like, how many years ago? 14 years ago? 13 years ago. I can't remember anything. Next picture. I'm almost done here. Some of you have been at our VBSs. You know what we've done to this place and how we've used this facility. I've got that because that's just a picture of the whole facility. We have used this thing. We have used it until we outgrew this right here, which takes us to the next picture. Well, it'll be the one after this. I had to show you that as everything is growing, our kids were growing. That's little Eden right there, Emmy, my daughter. Guess what Sunday that was? Team Sunday. The people that haven't been here long, they just revealed it. They said, Mountaineer Sunday? It might as well been, right? Might as well been Mountaineer Sunday. There was always a few seculars that come in, a few heathens sporting Buckeye junk and stuff like that. But we've had so much fun with the theme Sundays through the years here with Team Sunday and Beach Sunday and Biker Sunday. What? Harvest Sunday. Yeah, we love theme Sundays here. And last year we missed all of that last year. Next slide. It's like outgrew everything. VBS, I'm just going to tell you, VBS was the Kickstarter for building the gym because we were just out of room. See, at one time, we had the teen center and this to use. The teen center was up in town at the Fred Gilbert Center. Thank you all for helping me preach today. And when we said, let's move the teen center down here, it just makes perfect sense. Then we lost that space for VBS. It's like we don't have room to do VBS anymore because we needed more than just the sanctuary. So we built the gym, and many of you have been here as we have utilized that space. And you know, if we build a square foot of something somewhere, we use it. We are not a church that builds buildings to say, look at our building. We are a church that builds out of necessity. And we've seen that even here, that through the years, the ebbs and flows of the congregation. And it saddens me because we live where we do. We have been constantly losing families through the years that have left because of employment things and moving out of the area. And some of our greatest families that served and gave and were just a central part of things, we've lost so many families like that through the years because of job relocation. But God always brings in fresh blood, fresh people. And my wife and I have noticed that even though the ebbs and the flows of the numbers go up and down constantly through the years, there were times, let me just tell you, as a church, we've never been healthier than we are right now when it comes to church health. We are by no means the biggest we've ever been when it comes to numbers. There were Sundays, you would not believe some of the Sundays that we would put 600 people plus inside of this room right here. And we were not at our peak with health in those days, but everything is a trade-off, right? And now COVID has all churches in America in rebuilding mode. I looked through all the thousands of pictures. I thought, can I just find one picture that is the picture of Cornerstone Family Church? And this was the picture that I pulled out. Next one. Oh, I wish that was bigger because the babies are so little. There we go. My wife and 4 babies, and that was on July 4th over at the 4E farm on the giant slip and slide. And we always go all out on July 4th. And I don't even remember who all those babies are right now. I know Baby Rain is one of them because of the hair. Who are the other babies in there? We've had so many babies through the years. This was the picture that to me represents Cornerstone Family Church because we have been a very fertile church in the natural, which is prophesied of the spiritual. We are a church that believes in producing, not just having church services and then I'll see you next Sunday. Some people that may be all that they plug into, but most people here are used to being part of a living organism. And for me, the many babies that have been birthed here through the years, that is the picture of who we are as Cornerstone Family Church. And what I love is that Cornerstone Family Church has not just stayed within the framework of a campus or a building, but it's spread throughout the whole community. Wherever we go, wherever we see each other. I thought, where can I find a good picture that expresses how we interact as a church family when we're off of this campus? And I thought about this next picture at Kroger. And that's me pushing little Aaron around in a buggy at Kroger. Because that's just who we are. We're silly here. We're crazy. We're goofballs. It's one big MASH episode. It's life and death, but we've learned how to drop our drawers and slide on the ice, as they said on MASH one episode. And that was a special time for me, Aaron. Especially after we got right to the end of that aisle, and I gave him a good push right towards the registers, and I stepped back. And there goes Aaron just sailing across the front of Kroger's in that little buggy, looking around, and everybody in the place, and it was packed because it was Sunday, and everybody just, time stops, and everybody sees Aaron just rolling across Kroger in that buggy. That's Cornerstone Family Church. That's who we are. I'm showing you that because if you can't handle that, this may not be the place for you. And that's all the pictures I have to show you today. A little bit of our heritage. A little bit of our heritage. Michael Morgan showed up in those pictures a lot. There are many families I could pull out and say, this is our poster child or our poster family here. There are many, but I always think of the early days, and Michael and his brother Dan, we lost them through relocation too. Dan and Kessie, a vital part of this church for many, many years. And they came here and they were so young, and Michael was a teenager. And they were hungry for God. And he was volunteering for anything and everything, especially if it came to drama and the arts and stuff. He wasn't playing bass for us then. I don't even think you knew how to, where are you at, Michael? I don't even think you knew how to play bass then, did you? Okay, which I didn't know anything about, and we didn't really need him as a bass player at the time, but he volunteered for everything. And then a few years later, another little teenager came in, and she was a girl, and she'd never been to anything like this before. She came from one of them quiet churches, and if you know Erica Morgan, you know God never predestined for Erica to go to a quiet church. There is no stinking way. That was never going to work. Her family didn't come here, but there was a connection with Pastor Tim. Was there a connecting dot? And she came and she got plugged into the youth. And eventually her and Michael began to talk, and they fell in love. And it was so cute. And then they came to me one day and they told me they wanted to get married, and we got them hitched, and then they had baby 1, and then they had baby 2, and then they had baby 3, and then they stopped. They met here. They fell in love here. We got them hitched. We've dedicated all their babies. And from the very get-go, they've been plugged into so many things, wearing so many hats, that there's times we need someone to volunteer to do something, and I'll intentionally make sure they're not around because I know they're going to volunteer for something else. That is a family that I think I can safely say you don't know how to separate your life from the life of this place. It's not just a place you go to church. It's your history.